Thank you, Town Clerk. Can I ask all to be upstanding for a minute's silence for Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II? Please be seated. On behalf of the Council, I wish to minute our congratulations to King Charles III on his accession to the throne. We wish him a long and happy reign. God save the King.
God save the King.
Moving to item 1, public question time. The public are welcome to ask questions of the Council on matters that arise under its remit. Are there any members of the public that wish to ask a question? That is no, so we shall move on. Apologies for absence. I believe
we have apologies down there from Councillor Amos, who has started his study away in Oxford. Councillor Favor has a personal commitment, and Councillor Bennett is working this evening.
thank you. We wish Councillor Amos well on his studies and look forward to seeing him in the Christmas break.
Excuse me,
Of course.
Yeah, Councillor Dorsey is a conference.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Grass. Yes. I propose we accept. Can I have a second, please? Second. Thank you, Deputy Town Mayor. All those in favour? Thank you. Now, moving on to item 3, to confirm the minutes of the Town Council meeting held on the 4th of July. I will propose those minutes. Could I have a second, please? Thank you, Deputy Town Mayor. Are there any questions, or can I ask for all those in favour? Yeah. Okay, item 4, to receive any declarations of personal or pecuniary interest. Looks like that is moving. So we shall move on to item 5, Town Mayor's announcements. You've seen in front of you a list of the diary events I've been to since July. I think what I would say, obviously, the key event was the death of Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I would say it was a sad honour to lead the town in mourning for the late Queen and also proclaiming the new King. I'd like to thank the town clerk and staff for organising so professionally the events which took place, and also the Vicar of St Swithin's, Andrew Hawken, for the service of commemoration. I'd also like to thank fellow councillors for supporting me and also attending those events. So, unless there's any comments or questions on the diary, I'll move on. Item 6, to receive such communications as the leader of the council may desire to lay before the council. Over to Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Town Mayor. Just a few items to keep members of the council informed. As regards St Barnabas, as you know, we're sort of way in the throes of purchasing that for community use. At the moment, it's still with the solicitors having a dotting the i's and crossing the t's. So hopefully we can actually get our hands on it and move in fairly swiftly. As regards the police station, just to update council, we did put an offer in for 900,000, which would involve the Public Works Loan Board. However, that was rejected by the Police and Crime Commissioner's office. So how that is, we've obviously left it, but we've got on the table an expression of interest. So we see what happens later on down the line on that one. As you know, we're coming up for setting the budget. Town clerk and the RFO and myself have discussed a few things, but there's a little way to go. And just to remind you, chairman of the committees, that you need to let the town clerk know on any budgetary requirements. As soon as we get some sort of figure, then I'll bring that back to group for further discussion. So that is in the process being done at the moment. As you know, or may not know, at District Council the other week, it was discussing about the government boundary reviews. Quite pleased to say for East Grinstead, the wards lined up with the Mid-Sussex District wards, so it is quite useful. And it's actually agreed at the Leisure and Community Committee that we're down to 16 councillors now, as opposed to 19, which is quite good news. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take. So, you know, okay, thank you, Town Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Moving on to item 7, dispose of any business outstanding from the last meeting. There was none. So moving on to Principal Council update. I'm very pleased to say we have West Sussex County Council Councillor Jackie Russell with us to update us.
Thank you, Town Mayor. I've got quite a bit to update on, so apologies if it feels like it's going on. Obviously, I'll email you my update, but you're probably interested in all of it, really. Some is local, some is what's going on at County Council. So starting off locally, St Margaret's Loop. I'm not sure where you are with respect to updates, but just to advise that as of the 30th of September, inspections on both bridges were undertaken sort of the week prior to that. But highways were unable to gain access to complete everything required to inspect due to the ground conditions and the height at which operatives were required to work. So they're currently wanting to go back, and they are discussing when they can go back with the streetworks team, because we have, as you it won't have gone unnoticed, we are literally overrun with roadworks. So it is literally fighting for the road space within which to be able to come back and carry out the rest of the inspection. And it may actually end up that it happens overnight. I did ask again today whether or not they'd actually had a date for return, but unfortunately they don't at the moment. But what I can say is we have obtained sufficient survey information on which to base analytical checks on load capacities for both structures. So there will be some analysis undertaken over the next few weeks on that at West Sussex. So some of you may or may not be aware, I've been working quite hard with highways to get some improvements for residents with respect to crossing roads safely, and also with respect to the issues in and around Tanyard Avenue, which ends up really, really congested around school time, and we've had a couple of near misses. So quite pleased to say that the Tanyard Avenue traffic regulation order has been improved, and that will basically be prepared for public consultation. So obviously it's all subject to public consultation. And that will involve double yellow lines around the junction back down to Oakcroft, where people tend to park on the pavements, and up around the Hammerhead, where people tend to park either to drop off at school or to park there for the day whilst they go to work. Again, I have pressed for a date on that, but resources are quite slim at county, as they are everywhere. So there may be a slight delay. I have also asked for a bus cage to be inserted on Herentide Drive, just right of the junction, because cars are parking there bumper to bumper, and that is extremely unsafe for residents. That comes via another department. the Safer Routes to School team. So I'm waiting to hear back on that, but I would really hope that we can get that done, and that'd be a significant improvement. Naturally, because I have been successful with Tanyard Avenue, that has actually triggered the discussions about Glendoyne Way and extending the yellow lines. So what I've said to residents is that's going to be tricky to extend those lines, because you've got residences that are directly on Heronside Drive, and if you put yellow lines all the way along, then they won't have any on-street parking directly outside their houses. So that will be quite tricky. But what I have done is I've gone back to highways with some photos, the latest of which I took this morning. I took some yesterday when it was empty, and today, to highlight the issues. And there are two potential routes. I'm hoping to get some suggestions from them, and that is, one is through the traffic regulation order, whether or not I can get some amendments tagged onto the Tanyard traffic regulation order, whether or not they'll accept me putting in a completely separate request, or whether or not I can incorporate something into the mini controlled parking zone review, which is actually currently being undertaken. So I'm waiting to hear from both of those departments as to whether or not I can do something for Glendoyne Way, but they do already have double lines, and ultimately it does come down to enforcement presence, with the civil enforcement officers going out and putting tickets on people's vans. I had 3 community highways applications in Delaware Road to basically upgrade the tactile crossing point, which is kind of on the corner of the Vicarage car park. That's currently going through moderation. That got quite a bit of support come through, so I'm waiting to hear on that. As I am waiting to hear on Dunnings Road, where we want to upgrade the school crossing point and introduce some traffic calming, currently going through moderation. So the traffic calming will be more around Sunnyside Post Office, because it's very deadly for residents to pull out of Coronation Road and to cross the road there. So that's going through. And also the Heronside Forest Way crossing, which is pretty deadly if you're a regular dog walker like I am down there, when vans and cars park right up by the crossing point. So I'm hopeful that we'll do something there to improve the visibility, because there's been some near misses there. And to really depress everybody, forthcoming roadworks. So SGM, the latest plan, obviously, they were working around Warburton Close and Bourg de Péage, and I realised that did cause a lot of disruption. At one point, we did have 3 sets of traffic lights, but I spoke to highways and said, can you get rid of the ones in Bourg, just to sort of make it easier up and down the 22 and create a diversion around the back. And that worked really, really well. And they were then originally due to start in the High Street, but as some of you will be aware, there was a safety critical issue at Moat Road. So all the resources had to go to Moat Road, and so the continuing works that were High Street and then going south towards Ashestwood were actually delayed. So the new plan has come out now, and basically they are due to come back to the Lewis Road on the 22nd of this month, with work starting around the Beeching Way to coincide with the half-term holiday. And then in the early new year, 3rd January, they will be coming back to the High Street. Swish Fibre, where are we now? It's the 3rd, 5th to the 7th of October this week. So they're carrying out overnight work. So that really shouldn't be too disruptive, but there will be a road closure between 8 and 6. And that's really just to test around a manhole. So, they shouldn't really sort of cause too much interference. There's going to be some traffic management 17th to 20th of October on the Lewis Road outside number 16 Tanyard Avenue to deal with some ash dieback. So that requires specialist equipment, so there will be very short-term roadworks there. Currently, there's a lot of forward planning going on with respect to the works that are just completed by South East Water, Turners Hill Road, West Hill Road, Hurst Farm Road. That's going to fall any time between now and March 2023, and it's about resurfacing following the contractors doing their works. Brooklands Way roundabout is being resurfaced 15th to 19th of November, with an overnight road closure from 8 till 6. South East Water are back 31st to the 4th of November in West Street at the junction of Queensway to install a new mains connection for the flats 69A and B, and there will be some 2-way traffic management in situ there. And I have to say now, South East Water have also got forward planned works on notice to return to Queen's Road between January and June of next year to carry out mains upgrade work. Now, this is interesting because obviously I saw this and I had some discussions about Queen's Road parking in general with highways. and it transpired they knew nothing about it, which was quite worrying. But I flagged this up to them, and I flagged it up to the parking teams at Mid Sussex, and the relevant councillors actually at Mid Sussex, because what's going to happen is you're going to have a temporary loss of some of the parking spaces down there in that parking zone. So there needs to be some mitigation during that time, because that's quite a long spell of time to lose a number of parking spaces. And you know, it's also it could create quite a bit of noise, shall I say. So that everybody is aware, so it's really down to Mid Sussex and West Sussex to get their heads around that really, and make that easier for residents. So moving on to county council, a couple of things. Obviously, I've seen, we're hearing a lot about cost of living crisis. And I just wanted to kind of set out the county's position really for parish and town council. So West Sussex has no additional resources to address the issue and is anticipating additional cost and demand pressures as a result of the situation. And they're currently focusing on working with districts and boroughs and partners in the voluntary sector to coordinate resources to help those that are most in need. The government recently announced 4.8 million as the third phase of the Household Support Fund, providing support between October 22 and March 23. And this will enable West Sussex Council to continue to provide £15 a week vouchers for children eligible for free school meals in the holiday, delegate some funding for distribution by districts and boroughs, offer direct support through applications via the community hub, and support others through citizen advice, food and fuel banks and other organisations. And the council continues to promote other government initiatives to support lower income households, including the Holiday Activity Fund and Warmer Homes Fund, and communications will be released within the next couple of weeks. So you should start to see that come through. Children's services. So up till now, children's services have been moving along on their improvement journey, and they continue to do that. But it's quite a challenging time now. We basically, throughout the pandemic, we had a series of what are termed tragic events where young people took their lives, and these inquests are currently going through the coroner. So there's a lot of that coming around. So far, we've not been named as interested parties, but there will be one or two where we are named as interested parties. And some of you may have seen the most recent one on the news where the authority were named with other agencies, including Sussex Police. And Sussex Police have been given a prevention of death order. The coroner is actually awaiting the outcome of our full inspection, which is early next year, before determining whether or not to impose the same order on the authority, which, to be honest, we're quite disappointed about and feel that that is disproportionate, but, you know, it hasn't been decided yet, and we do need to wait and see what they say. But to put it into context, this is the impact, this is the outcome from, you know, work undertaken several years ago when we were in quite a bad place. So, you know, it's just incredibly sad. And another very sad thing is that one of our children's homes in Crawley, which has had an extremely long record of being outstanding for years and in good and always effective and a really high reputation, had a specific safeguarding incident and caused the home to lose its status of outstanding and was rated inadequate. This incident occurred between April and June of this year. An Ofsted warrant that the measures taken were not appropriate, considering the safety of all children. Significant improvements have now been made, and we await re-inspection probably by the end of this year. As I say, it's particularly sad because since 2009, Teesdale Close has received no fewer than 12 outstanding ratings, and with the remainder being either good or sustained and improved effectiveness. But it just illustrates how fragile the residential home sector is with respect to compatibilities within homes and the responses by management teams. And I have to say that we're not alone in this. Probably at least one a day. By law, Ofsted have to inform directors of children's services when a home closes, and there is at least 4 or 5 a week. And that actually impacts us because obviously we don't have all of the children in residential provision. We rely a lot on private providers, and it's private providers that are closing. I could talk forever about this tonight, but as I say, to put it into context, it was very, very sad. It was a specific incident And it's very, very common. It's happening in a lot of homes where Ofsted are coming in and saying, you didn't deal with that in the way we wanted you to deal with it, and you go from outstanding to inadequate. It's quite scary. And it's not necessarily relevant to where you are on your overall service improvement journey. So outstanding authorities, for example, have also suffered this fate. On to the next bit, the sixth and final monitoring visit by Ofsted for our children's services improvement journey has actually happened. I can't actually talk about that until the 26th of October when the report is published. But what I would say is it's completely different to the residential inspection sector, completely different parameters, and the two are not, they're not related whatsoever. Some of the challenges in children's, and I know that people have challenges across the piece, recruitment and retention. Significant challenges in recruitment and retention, and they are nationwide issues. And it's got to the point where we've had to go overseas, and we've been very fortunate in recruiting 36 highly experienced social workers from overseas who are due to start in the new year. We also now nurture our own social workers, and we had 30 new qualified starting in September. And this will stand us in very, very good stead in continue to improve and embedding our social care practice model. But we do still have a long way to go. But the Ofsted final inspection, we anticipate around February and March. So we're hoping by then we'll be in an even better place than we are now, fingers crossed. The other big issue for children's is placement sufficiency. So there are severe challenges with respect to the provision of what we call regulated placements, which are placements that Ofsted approve in residential homes or in foster care. And we've spent a significant amount already, and we've already spent, we've refurbished 3 homes in the south of the county to the tune of 5.2 million, one of which houses emergency placements for 3 children, and that can't open at the moment because we can't get the staff. The other 2 are open, and one of those is rated outstanding, and the other is rated good, purely rated good because it hadn't been opened long enough following being forcibly closed 4 or 5 years ago to warrant outstanding rating. And we're also committed to spending a further 11.1 million in refurbishing and upgrading the homes in the north of the county, which is due to start in January 2023. And one of those homes is Teasle Close. The cost of provision via external providers is exponential due to the enormous national demand, and provision for West Sussex County Council at the moment, externally using external providers, is costing anything from £5,000 a week to £28,000 a week, depending on the type of provision. So you can see that's where all of our money is going. This has put significant pressure on the children's services budget thus far, but we are working hard and trying to reduce this pressure through various other means, but these are long-term solutions. And just finally, the budget, we are now working on the budget for 23 to 24. It's in the very early doors. We do have significant pressures, as I say, in children's, but also in education with our dedicated schools grant, which is putting significant pressure on at the moment. But as I say, we're all going through that, and I'll have more details later in the year if you want them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Russell. Very detailed update there. Are there any questions from?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Mrs. Russell. She's done a load of work there, and obviously there's all sorts of pressure she's having to deal with. So I do appreciate what she's done. In the matter of the road closures, can I ask you, are you satisfied that West Sussex handled that in the best way they could have done? Could some of the sort of less important stuff been scheduled a lot better? Because I've never seen the town in such a state as it has been lately.
Do you want to stand for that? Yeah. Yeah, I spent a lot of time on the roadworks in through the summer. I mean, they were mostly in my division. And, I like you, I was like, oh my goodness, not another one. I mean, Turners Hill Road and also Lewis Road, SGN and South East Water. The problem we have at West Sussex, and I did a lot on this, and, we probably didn't feel it in this town, but West Sussex did try and do a lot of things behind the scenes to mitigate the disruption, which was practically impossible in the end, because what happened was the last 2 years of COVID, and this is part of it, stopped a lot of essential upgrade work being done. So that work has all kind of snowballed and come forward, And on top of that, you had emergency works coming in, which always do. I mean, you know, I think towards the end, I mean, people at the end of their tether, you had the Windmill Lane works with the southeast water and the water hydrants, and you had it in St Hill Road. You know, you had all these emergency works coming up as well, and they were just popping up all over the place. So obviously, West Sussex is the authority that grants the permits. They do not have the right to say to utilities, you cannot come and access your equipment. They don't. The only time they can really refuse that, if there's somebody already in the space, and they'll turn around and say, no, you can't, because so-and-so is in there, so you can't, which is a bit like us with St Margaret's Loop. No, you can't have that space at the moment because SGN are working there or whatever. So they can't actually refuse them. The utilities do have the right to access their equipment. So, you know, at the end of it, it was extremely tricky for them. They were getting something like, and I think they still are, getting 1,500 requests a week in for permits to get into our roads. So there is a significant backlog, and I'm afraid that's going to go on for a long time. As I said, South East Water are coming back, and they're going to be around Queen's Road between January and June of next year. That is going to be significantly disruptive, which is why I've got in really early and said to both district and county, you need to sort something out for the residents who have a parking permit. I don't know, give them some space in the car park, which I think they use overnight, some of them anyway, but they're not going to be able to park there. So, you know, you know, I don't believe they could have done it any differently. They had to let them in. Those works had to be done. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, we're just trying to manage it as best we can, and we've just got to live with it. But I spent a lot of time over the summer on it. You know, it was right outside my back gate. You know, traffic lights every Saturday were failing. You know, I was on the phone, and, you know, it was incredibly disruptive. You know, I think when we had the three-way lights at Borg and on the Lewis Road, it was horrific going down the A22, and you'd get one or two cars at the Borg de Péage lights. And I rang them up, and I got onto SGN, and I got onto West Sussex, and said, gosh, can you take those lights out and get people from Warburton Close and all the other roads that come off Borg to go out via Escorts and round and into the town? Took that out, made a massive difference. So it's really, we can't stop them accessing their equipment.
Well,
So
you did that. Don't you think that the county should have been supervising doing that?
Well, they don't have the resources. That is the issue. And unfortunately, either comes down to the local councillor, or it comes down to, you know, a resident who is really sort of on it and just ringing them. And it's easier for me, isn't it, really? Because I just know who to go to. You know, I can say, you know, this is happening, you know, can we do this, can we do that? If they had the resources, yes, but it's like re-inspection, you know, coming out after works have been done. They don't have enough resources, to be honest with you. So it's actually down to the eyes and ears of the county councillor to say, gosh, that's a bit of a mess there. We know we need to get them out. But, you know, even on that, with reinstatement, they have 6 months. If they haven't done a satisfactory job, we say, come out and, you know, you need to make that good. They've got up to 6 months to come back and do that. And they very often don't come back in 6 months. And literally, the penalty system is a joke. Literally, the highways authority has no teeth. So actually what it means is we need legislative change to give the authority much more devolved power, and that way we can then really hold them accountable. But at the moment, they're just the middleman. They're just a permit issuer. Really, that's it. And checking the roads, that's it. That's all the authority they have. And I can see Councillor Gibbs is nodding, you see, so I'm not fibbing.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions from Councillor?
Thank you. I'd like to echo Councillor Osborne's grateful thanks to Councillor Russell. We know you always put 200% into everything you do. We can tell tonight the commitment and the toll it's kind of taken on you, particularly with, you know, the children's issues. So thank you on behalf of this town council for everything you do.
Thank you.
Because, you know, we know what you put in.
Thank you.
Questions from councillors? Okay, could I ask Deputy Town Mayor to?
Thank you, Councillor Russell, for coming along tonight and speaking to us. To echo the thanks that we've been given in the room. You don't have an easy message to deliver, not always a popular message to deliver, and some very emotive subjects that you have to touch on. So thank you for your honesty, your frankness, and coming along tonight to deliver those things. Very informative for us. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move on to item 9, to receive the minutes of the committee. Mr. Jeffrey Russell, Councillor Russell, if you'd like to leave, you may, but you're perfectly welcome to.
Should I just stay until the end?
Okay, so the first committee we shall pass to is planning. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. Again, that's a very quick thank you to my committee for very efficient and hard work over the last cycle. The committee is working very efficiently through planning applications at the moment, so thank you. I'd like to propose 3 meetings, one on the 11th of the 7th, pages 42 to 52, minutes 77 to 83. The 1st of the 8th, pages 53 to 61, minutes 84 to 90. And on the 22nd of the 8th, pages 62 to 70, minute 91 to 97. Thank you.
Do we have a second for those?
Last second.
Are there any questions?
Thank you, Town Mayor. Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to bring the council's attention to the planning meeting on the 23rd of August. The Town Council tonight are looking to formally adopt a planning policy statement. So I don't know if you wanted to, I quite like, Chairman, if you could or I could just highlight that the significance of the decision that was taken at the 23rd of August meeting in regard to the junction, the pledge effectively that this Town Council was making to the District Council, the Planning Authority, for the upgrade of the junction. So I don't know if you'd like to.
Councillor Whittaker, you have done so much hard work on this. Please
Yeah,
feel free to.
councillors might have seen the papers, but sometimes they might not. So it's a very strong planning statement, which will have legal force because it aligns with our neighbourhood plan from 2016. It particularly relates to the 2 sites that are in the District Council's site allocation development plan document that are termed SA19 and SA20. And it commits this council to lobbying with the planning authority such that when those 2 sites come forward with planning applications, this Town Council backs the Surrey County Council position, as stated in their letter of the 24th of January this year, to effectively apply a Grampian condition to those developers and any permissions that may be granted in the future for either or both of those sites to upgrade the Star Junction, which is the junction of the A22 and 264 in the north of the town. This traffic issue has been highlighted for many years by various traffic reports, and I think it's a significant step for this Town Council to make a stand for many of our residents, particularly in the north of the town, but it also affects the whole of the town, as all councillors will be aware. So I just wanted to highlight that particular issue for the approval of the minutes of the planning committee minutes of the 23rd of August this year. Thank you.
Okay. Can we have a show of hands in favour of it? Thank you, Deputy Town Mayor. Now moving on to Councillor Woodgate for Public Services.
Thank you, Chairman. I too would also like to thank all my members of my committee for all their hard work over the last cycle. It's been challenging at times and some difficult questions and some pressure placed on people to try and get some answers. So thank you very much for all your hard work. I'd like to propose the minutes for the Public Services meeting held on the 1st of September, pages 174, 71 to 74, pages 98 to 109. I'm going to turn my phone off. Could I have a second for that, please? Councillor Vaught is not here tonight, so I need somebody.
Oh, no, I'm not. Councillor Whittaker seconded down.
Thank you very much. Thank you, President.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Do we have any questions? Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Tony. Again, for councillors' benefit, I'd like to bring councillors' attention to the Public Services Committee meeting on the 1st of September, where on police matters, and just an update really, where Sergeant Paul Voigt came after a couple of meetings absences earlier on this year. He he made some very significant statements, particularly in regard to resourcing or frankly, the lack of resourcing in the neighbourhood policing team. Just to let the council know that I raised this matter after the 1st September at the District Council Leader Scrutiny Committee recently, a couple of weeks ago, which was taken up by the leader and the deputy leader. And subsequently, it also has been taken up by Councillor Webster in his role, who's on the Police and Crime Commissioner's scrutiny meeting every month with Katie Bourne, and he did raise it, particularly in terms of policing numbers for the East Grinstead area, but also particularly for questioning when the Chequermead Police Contact Centre will be opened again for public contact, because it hasn't been for over a year. So Councillor Webster's raised that directly with the Police and Crime Commissioner, and I just wanted to make Council aware of that.
Thank you, Councillor Whittaker. Are there any other questions? Comments? Okay, all those in favour of those minutes then, please. Moving on to the new season tourism, and it's Councillor Dooley who chaired. Sorry.
Councillor, something brought that might be a GP class.
So, A&T, Councillor Dooley, because you stepped in at the last meeting, I believe. So,
I did. Thank you. So I've only stepped into this once, but thank you for the support on that meeting and the support you give to chair on previous meetings. We've got quite a lot of subjects that we deal with that are quite passionate to the town. So I'd like to propose the minutes for the meeting on the 29th of the 9th, 2022, page numbers 80 to 82, minute numbers 126 to 136. Can I have a second for that, please?
Oh,
Councillor Osborne.
Any questions from anyone?
Any questions? All
All
in favour? And now, Finance and General Purposes Committee, over to Councillor Slater.
Thank you, Town Mayor. I'd like to propose the minutes for the Finance and General Purposes Committee on the 26th of the 9th, pages numbers 75, 79, a minute number 110 to 125. And once again, I'd like to thank the committee for all their hard work on F&GP. Do I have a second?
I'd like to second that, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Happy to take questions.
Doesn't appear there are any questions, Councillor Sutton. All those in favour? So, moving on to item 10, that is to authorise the sealing of the following documents. Granting exclusive right of burial numbers 2,261, 2,262, 2,263, 2,264, 2,265, 2,266, 2,267, 2,268, 2,269, 2,270, 2,271, and 2,272. I propose that we affix the seal to these documents. Could I have a second, please? Yes, second. Thank you, Deputy Town Mayor. All those in favour? Thank you. And moving on, we have the Clear Channel extension of contract 2030. I think we all know about this contract, but I shall propose that first. Could I have a second? Thank you, Deputy Town Mayor. Are there any, this, just to clarify, this is an extension to allow the town council owned bus shelters to be extended to 2030. There is another variation that allows the council to use the advertising space for council activities. It is not being used by Clear Channel at any time. I'll just refresh your memories. Do we have any questions on that? Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Sam. Can you just confirm that? I think it does include any repairs to any breakages of said bus shelters, of which we had a few in the summer period.
That's been confirmed.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no other questions, all those in favour? So on to item 11, that's the civility and respect. It's obviously documented and explained in the agenda. It's a collaboration with Society of Council Clerks, National Association even of Local Councils, One Voice Wales and county associations. We're asked to sign up to the pledge as shown in the papers, noting that the Dignity at Work policy will be coming back in the next cycle. I'd like to propose that. Could I have a second, please? Thank you, Deputy Town. And do we have any questions? Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just ask, I'm pretty supportive of this, can I just ask though that in the town clerk's opinion, would this help any issues that come up potentially in regard to any standards issues with this council that have done in the previous 2 years, as has been highlighted in the district council recent annual report of their standards committee?
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Whittaker. Yes and no, as in at this point in time, there are no changes to the standards, the punishments, corrections, whatever the correct word is, sanctions. There are no changes to that. However, part of the pledge is that the bodies that the Chairman read out first of all, so SLCC, now One Voice Wales, we will continue lobbying to the government for those changes so that standards can have appropriate sanctions where necessary for councillors, unfortunately, who do breach the code of conduct. So signing up to this point doesn't do anything other than commit us to be part of the body of lobbying for those sanction changes to be made. But at this point in time, the sanctions remain as they are.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Yeah, I just one query. Better stand up, wouldn't I?
Okay, if you feel, I thought maybe you could.
No respect to you, Mr. Mayor. I respect you.
You feel up to it, thanks.
It was hard work, and I'm not there.
That's good.
Yeah, the only thing that I will ask you a question about is this another one of these training programs we're all forced to go on just to behave like a human being? It seems a bit bizarre to me. I don't think I need to go on a training course tonight to behave. I mean, I might behave badly from time to time. I don't need to be on a training course to know that.
Well, I think I'm allowed the town clerk to answer that, but I think there's varying degrees of acting badly. I think. Over to you.
What this does is it requires councillors to have in place a training programme. We have in place a training programme, and over the past 4 years, councillor, I think you know that you've attended a couple of training on planning, and you did the refresher on standards and the code of conduct when you first took office 4 years ago. We do make training available. We don't make it compulsory to be trained to death and spend a lot of money where we know some of you aren't necessarily that keen, but it is available to you, and the basics we will always be asked to do. So you will be asked, should you return next year after elections, you will be asked to undergo the introduction again, to go through the code of conduct, just to remind you what it's all about. But I hope that you would find it a good refresher, an opportunity to spend some time with your fellow councillors and not too onerous.
I'm not standing again. So that's all that problem.
Okay, well, if there are no further questions, can I ask to vote in favour, please? And lastly, item 12, this is for noting. I'll say, if I could ask Councillor to note that, but also can I request that you hand back any black armbands to the town clerk for future use? Unless there's any questions, can I ask you to note that, please?
No,
Thank you, thank you, councillors. And at that point, I close this meeting. 7:44, and the next meeting will be on Monday, the 9th of January 2023. Thank you.